We're back here on the A1 Automotive Ticket Tailgate pregame show. This segment brought to you by Lincoln Wall-to-Wall Wine and Spirits. Load up on all your tailgate necessities for beer, spirits, and wine at Lincoln Wall-to-Wall Wine and Spirits, just north of 27th and Superior. We're down here at 1040 O Street, northwest corner of 11th and O, for the Ticket Tailgate pregame show. But we are joined by special guests from Barry Law. In this segment of the show, what a treat. The original, the OG, the founder of Barry Law, Mr. John Barry. Welcome to the show, sir.
Yes, thank you. And when I would, during my radio days, I used to sign off, I am John Stevens Barry, kind of formidable. So you always used all three names for one reason or another. Anyway, it's fun to be here, and what a great studio you have, looking out and seeing the people. Great place, great venue.
Well, we appreciate you guys choosing us for your pregame tailgate party. It's been great having you down here. You mentioned you did some drive time radio in the Lincoln area. What'd you cover? What was your favorite stuff to talk about?
Well, my thing was just what was going on in the news. And I would just come in and somebody would print out the headlines and I'd go from there. I spent over a half century in the courtroom and I never used notes. I didn't use notes to try cases. I don't use notes to broadcast. Notes just confuse me.
I'll put mine away then. I'm in the presence of that. How did you get into that habit of no notes? That's impressive.
It isn't really. Paper intimidates me. And I'm much more comfortable just winging it. And it worked for me in the courtroom. I had to learn a script to be in an opera here. I was the drunken jailer in a production of Deflator Mouse, and I had to learn lines. Oh my gosh, what a horrible experience. But it was fun.
Okay, and your practice for what, 50 some years, you said?
Yeah, I've been practicing since 1965. I transferred from infantry to JAG in Vietnam, but I had permissive travel orders. So I saw a lot of action. I was up in I Corps down in the Delta, and that's one of the reasons we decided to represent veterans was because of my combat experiences. And of course, all three of my sons served in Afghanistan or Iraq or both. So here's the tragic thing. On the back of my dad's World War I victory medal, it says, "The war to end all wars." And everybody always thinks that. And now we see the tragedies going on in Ukraine and in the Middle East, and it's just terrible.
You wish it'd be done. You wish you wouldn't have to go over and fight for stuff like that. But how important then, you mentioned veterans being a big focus of your practice. What are some of those issues that veterans deal with when they come back home? And just how important is it for them to have a voice through someone like Barry Law?
Well, it's important that they get it's important that they get what's entitled to them from the VA, of course, in terms of medical care, prescriptions, hearing aids. But there's something else. I think that people who have been in action ought to talk about it. A person told me, if you deal with your dragons during the day, they won't come and get you at night. And so many of my friends won't talk, but then they have night sweats, they're hypervigilant, all kinds of things can happen. So it's good to have a sense of community among veterans so that they can get it off their chest and kind of talk and know that they're not alone, know that they're not isolated. We try to do that at Barry Law. We make sure they get whatever the VA owes them, but we also try to get a sense of community so that people will not feel isolated, not feel alone.
Veterans with each other, but also in the greater community. Is that fair to say?
Yes, I think that's true. I think that there is, well, especially in 1969, when I first came back from Vietnam, and in 1970, when I returned again, there was a great deal of hostility toward veterans. And that isn't true anymore. It's been replaced by indifference. But either way, I think that our veterans, my brothers and sisters in arms, should get what they're entitled to, not only from the VA. I'm not just talking money and medical care, but I'm talking about companionship and the notion of brotherhood and sisterhood. And I think that's very important. I don't think that, I don't claim that we are somehow supposed to be given celebrity treatment, but I do think that there should be some notion of the fact that once you've been in action, you never come all the way home. There is part of you that is always going to be in war. And I think that sometimes people have to recognize that.
Definitely important to recognize. We're here in the A1 Automotive Ticket Tailgate pregame show, joined by the original Mr. Barry of Barry Law. I do have to ask before we let you go. I know you're a busy guy. I don't want to keep you too long. When veterans come home, they leave a part of them behind. But Lincoln's home now. How Lincoln? Why Lincoln?
I always enjoyed it. I grew up in Ottawa, Iowa.
Okay.
I, for reasons that were complicated, ended up at Stanford. And
that good East Coast school, right?
Yeah. And then guess where I went to law school? Northwestern. But I am cheering for the Huskers.
Okay.
Always have.
Excellent.
And some of my good clients over the years, I remember, and friends, Derry Nelson, All-American here, went on to play with the Chargers. I could name dozens of them. But yeah, I'm a Big Red. I cheer for the Big Red always. And when they play Northwestern in football or Stanford in volleyball, I'm cheering for Nebraska.
We appreciate that. Good choice. The Nebraska-Stanford National Championship a few years ago. Iconic Nebraska volleyball, big win against Wisconsin tonight. But we'll let you go with this. Been in law since 1965. What are you most proud of with Barry Law that you've accomplished, and what's on tap?
Well, first of all, I like the fact we did a lot of pro bono work. We worked free for the Native American Rights Fund, the Civil Liberties Union. I once tried a 3-week death penalty case without one nickel of fee. Wow. And at the time, I was not in the situation I'm in now. At the time, we didn't have clients in 50 states as we do now. At the time, Inc. magazine didn't list us in the Law 500. I was a very small operation, but it was the right thing to do. And I think we've always tried to do what's right.
That's incredible. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for being down here as a part of our pregame tailgate. Thanks for having your event here. It's been an honor getting to chat with you.
My delight and my honor.
Did you give us your sign off?
Okay, here's how I always signed off when I had the show. And in the background was Wagner's Flying Dutchman. Ba-bum, 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 ba-bum. And I said, I am John Stevens Barry, reminding you that the torch burns, the flame endures, the human spirit will prevail. So thanks for having me on.
Wonderful. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, God bless.
God bless you as well.